Certainly. Here's an in-depth, comprehensive explanation of the 1971 Kennedy half dollar, covering its history, design, production, specifications, varieties, and value. The Kennedy half dollar was first minted in 1964 to honor President John F. Kennedy, who was assassinated on November 22, 1963. The public strongly supported commemorating him on a coin, and the half dollar was chosen due to its relative size and visibility. Transition in 1971. From 1964, the Kennedy half dollar was minted in 90% silver. From 1965 to 1970, it contained 40% silver. Starting in 1971, due to rising silver prices and economic concerns, the U.S. Mint switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition, the same as dimes and quarters. Therefore, the 1971 issue marks the first year Kennedy half dollars were produced with no silver content. Portrait, a left-facing bust of President John F. Kennedy. Designer, Gilroy Roberts, chief engraver of the U.S. Mint. Inscriptions, Liberty, arcs across the top. In God we trust, split with In God on the left and We Trust on the right. Year 1971 at the bottom. Design, the presidential seal of the United States. Designer, Frank Gasparo, assistant engraver at the Mint, later chief engraver. Features, a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, arrows in the left talon, symbolizing military readiness, an olive branch in the right talon, symbolizing peace, a shield on the eagle's chest, a ring of 50 stars encircles the design. Inscriptions, United States of America along the top rim, half dollar at the bottom. Note, number 1971 coins were struck for circulation with the S Mint mark. Those were only made as special collector-proof coins. Rare and valuable errors exist. Double die obverse, DDO doubling on In God We Trust or the date. Off-center strikes. Clip planchets. Wrong planchet errors. Some rare 1971 half dollars were mistakenly struck on 40% silver planchets, intended for 1970 coins. These can be detected by weight and sound and are highly valuable, sometimes over $1,000, also known as the 1971 silver planchet error. Testing for silver planchet error. Weight test. Copper nickel equals 11.34 G. 40% silver equals 11.5 G. Magnet test. Neither should stick to a magnet. Sound test. Silver coins produce a high-pitched ring, widely collected due to the Kennedy legacy. The 1971 issue is common and not considered rare. Important to collectors because it's the first clad, non-silver, half dollar. Uncirculated and proof versions are more desirable. High-grade examples or error coins are most sought after. Check mint mark location. Beneath Kennedy's neck on the obverse. Inspect reeded edge. Silver coins have a solid silver edge. Clad coins show a copper line in the middle. Use a precise digital scale to determine metal content in case of suspected error. Here's a comprehensive overview of the United States dollar, USD, in 1972, covering its economic context, physical currency, international role, and key financial developments. President Richard Nixon. Key event. The U.S. dollar in 1972 was in a period of significant transition following the breakdown of the Bretton Woods system, end of the gold standard. In August 1971, President Nixon closed the gold window, ending the direct convertibility of the dollar to gold. By 1972, the dollar was a fiat currency, no longer backed by gold. Floating exchange rates. After 1971, major currencies began to float against each other. In 1972, the Smithsonian Agreement, December 1971, attempted to realign exchange rates and set new parities, but it only temporarily stabilized the dollar. Inflation rate, 3.3% in 1972, moderate compared to the higher rates later in the 1970s. Federal minimum wage, $1.60 per hour. Average income, around $11,000 per year. Cost examples. Gallon of gas, $0.36. New car, $3,800. House, $27,600. The dollar still held strong domestic purchasing power, but inflation would rise dramatically later in the decade. Coins in circulation, 1972. Penny, 1 cent Lincoln Memorial bronze. Nickel, 5 cents Jefferson Monticello. Dime, 10 cents Roosevelt. Quarter, 25 cents Washington. Half dollar, 50 cents Kennedy, no longer silver after 1970. Dollar coin, Eisenhower dollar, 1971 to 1978, the first U.S. dollar coin since the peace dollar, 1935. Composition, circulating coins, copper nickel clad. Collector coins, proof and uncirculated 40% silver. Paper money, 1972. $1 bill, George Washington green seal, Federal Reserve note. $2 bill, discontinued in 1966, revived later in 1976. $5 to $100 bills, continued use with familiar portraits, Lincoln, Hamilton, Jackson, Grant, Franklin. Design note, all paper money featured green treasury seals and were backed by the Federal Reserve. Despite leaving the gold standard, the U.S. dollar remained the dominant global reserve currency. Many countries continued to peg their currencies to the U.S. dollar informally. The dollar began to fluctuate on foreign exchange markets, introducing more volatility. Federal Reserve Chair Arthur F. Burns, 1970 to 1978. The Fed maintained moderate interest rates to support economic growth. 1972 saw relatively low unemployment and moderate inflation, creating the illusion of a stable economy before the shocks of the mid-1970s oil crisis stagflation. The 1983 Kennedy half dollar is a prominent example of modern American coinage that reflects the legacy of President John F. Kennedy and the economic, political, and cultural factors of the early 1980s United States. Introduced in 1964, shortly after the assassination of Kennedy in 1963, the Kennedy half dollar replaced the Franklin half dollar and became a powerful national symbol of mourning and remembrance. The coin has been minted continuously since 1964, with the 1983 version being a typical issue from the post-silver, copper-nickel-clad era. By 1983, the Kennedy half dollar was no longer made of silver for general circulation. The silver content had been removed starting in 1971, and the coins were instead struck in a clad composition, featuring an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to an inner core of pure copper. This gave the coin a total weight of 11.34 grams and diameter of 30.6 millimeters. The 1983 issue continued the standard specification and bore the same obverse and reverse designs that had been used since 1971. Albeit with minor refinements over the years due to dye, wear, and artistic touch-ups. The obverse front of the 1983 Kennedy half dollar features the left-facing portrait of President John F. Kennedy, designed by Chief Engraver of the U.S. Mint, Gilroy Roberts. His initials, JAR, are subtly engraved at the truncation of Kennedy's neck. The inscriptions on the obverse include Liberty arching above Kennedy's head, In God We Trust below his chin, and the date 1983 at the bottom rim. This particular year is known for having strong, clear strikes from the Philadelphia and Denver mints, although the coins can exhibit varying degrees of wear depending on circulation. The reverse back was designed by Frank Gasparo and features a presidential seal, a heraldic eagle holding an olive branch in its right talon and a bundle of arrows in its left. A shield covers the eagle's chest, and in its beak it holds a scroll inscribed with E pluribus unum. Above the eagle is a ring of 13 stars representing the original colonies, with rays of light and clouds in the background. Surrounding the design is the inscription, United States of America, on the top and half dollar at the bottom. Gasparo's initials, FG, appear near the eagle's tail feathers. Two major U.S. mint facilities struck the 1983 half dollar. Philadelphia, no mint mark, and Denver, the mint mark located just above the date on the obverse. No half dollars were issued for circulation from the San Francisco Mint in 1983. However, San Francisco did strike-proof versions of the coin for collector sets. These proof coins, bearing an S mint mark, were struck on polished dies and with specially prepared planchets, resulting in a mirrored background and frosted details. In terms of production volume, the Denver Mint produced approximately 32.472 million coins, while the Philadelphia Mint struck about 34.139 million. The San Francisco Mint made around 3.28 million proof coins. While not considered rare in circulated condition, high-grade specimens, especially those in Mint State 65 or above on the Sheldon grading scale, can carry a modest premium due to the difficulty in finding examples with pristine surfaces and full luster, particularly from the Philadelphia Mint, where strikes were generally weaker. Interestingly, 1983 was a year in which no official mint sets were issued by the U.S. Mint, which makes high-quality examples from that year harder to come by than those of surrounding years. Collectors seeking pristine examples must rely on coins pulled from circulation or from bankrolls, which increases the challenge of assembling high-grade sets. This rarity of mint set quality strikes from 1983 adds to the collector appeal of the coin, despite its common circulation mintage. From a historical context, the 1983 Kennedy half-dollar came at a time when a half-dollar had largely fallen out of favor in day-to-day transactions. Most Americans use quarters, dimes, and smaller denominations more frequently, and a half-dollar had become increasingly rare in commercial use. This decline in circulation interest led to fewer half-dollars being produced in the years to follow, especially by the end of the 1980s. Still, the coin remained a staple in vending, banking, and casino rolls. From a numismatic perspective, the 1983 Kennedy half-dollar provides a snapshot of Reagan-era America, a time of patriotic revival, conservative economic policy, and renewed focus on national strength. Kennedy himself was still widely regarded as a symbol of youthful energy and tragic idealism, which gave the coin a lasting resonance. Many collectors appreciate the Kennedy half-dollar not only for its aesthetic and historical value, but also as an accessible entry point to U.S. coin collecting, especially among those who lived during or shortly after Kennedy's presidency. Error coins from 1983 are relatively scarce, but not unheard of. Examples include off-center strikes, double dies, and clipped planchets. A few notable double die obverse (DDO) varieties have been reported, although none are considered major rarities. Most error coins from this year are of interest to specialist collectors who focus on die varieties or minting anomalies. In summary, the 1983 Kennedy half-dollar is a widely available modern-era coin that embodies both artistic craftsmanship and mid-20th century American ideals. Though its intrinsic value remains tied to its face value and base metal content, its historical, commemorative, and aesthetic attributes offer lasting interest for collectors. Whether held as a nostalgic memento, part of a year set, or a carefully graded investment piece, the 1983 half-dollar continues to serve as a tangible link to American history and to the enduring legacy of President John F. Kennedy. The 2003 United States half-dollar, also known as a Kennedy half-dollar, holds a significant place in modern American numismatics. First introduced in 1964 to commemorate the tragic assassination of President John F. Kennedy in November 1963, the half-dollar has since undergone many changes in composition, minting practices, and circulation usage. By 2003, the coin had largely transitioned from a commonly circulated denomination to one mainly produced for collectors. The 2003 issue was released in both circulation strike, though not intended for general circulation, and proof formats. It was minted at 3 facilities: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D-mint mark; and San Francisco, S-mint mark, used for proof coins. The obverse front of the 2003 Kennedy half-dollar features a left-facing portrait of President Kennedy, designed by Gilroy Roberts, who was the chief engraver of the U.S. Mint at the time the coin was first created. The design was intended to quickly memorialize Kennedy's legacy and was adapted from a portrait Roberts had previously sculpted for Kennedy's presidential medal. The obverse also includes the inscriptions "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the year 2003. The reverse back of the coin showcases a modified version of the presidential seal, designed by Frank Gasparo. It displays a heraldic eagle with a shield on its chest, clutching an olive branch in its right talon and a bundle of arrows in its left, symbolizing the nation's commitment to peace and readiness for defense. Above the eagle's head is a ring of 13 stars, and it is surrounded by the inscription, "United States of America," and the denomination half-dollar. The 2003 issue continued with a modern copper-nickel-clad composition, outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a core of pure copper, a standard since 1971, when the U.S. Mint discontinued the use of silver in regular circulating half dollars. However, proof versions struck at the San Francisco Mint were also issued in a special 90% silver composition for collectors as part of the annual silver proof set, providing a nod to the coin's historical silver heritage. By 2003, Kennedy half dollars were no longer released into general circulation due to declining public use of the denomination. Starting in 2002, the Mint began producing these coins solely for collectors, available through direct purchase in mint sets, rolls, and bags. This made the 2003 half dollar relatively scarce in circulation, although it remains easily available to collectors. The Philadelphia and Denver Mint struck millions of these coins, approximately 3.6 million in Philadelphia and 5 million in Denver, which are low numbers compared to earlier decades when mintages often reached tens of millions. The San Francisco Mint struck about 1.1 million proof coins and 1.3 million silver proof coins, showcasing the enduring demand among numismatists. These limited mintages also mean that many of the 2003 half dollars have been preserved in excellent condition, with higher grade specimens often commanding premium prices, especially those graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC. The 2003 Kennedy half dollar reflects both the legacy of an iconic American president and a shift in U.S. coinage from circulation to collector-oriented production. The Kennedy design, unchanged since its debut, remains a poignant reminder of national unity in the wake of tragedy, and its continued presence in numismatic circles speaks to its popularity and symbolic power. In 2003, the Mint packaging options included 2 roll sets, one from each of Philadelphia and Denver, and 200 coin bags, which were sold to the public. Proof sets and silver proof sets also gave collectors a chance to own high-quality examples with frosted devices and mirror-like fields. The coin's reeded edge, diameter of 30.61 millimeters, and weight of 11.34 grams clad, or 12.5 grams silver, conform to long-standing specifications. While the Kennedy half dollar has never regained its circulation prominence from the 1960s and 70s, it remains a popular collector coin and continues to be struck annually. Numismatically, the 2003 half dollar represents a balance between tradition and modernity. The coin's composition, production style, and distribution channels reflect how the U.S. Mint has adapted to changing public use of physical currency. While vending machines, debit cards, and digital transactions reduce the need for physical coinage, the U.S. Mint has capitalized on the collector market by offering higher quality coins and special sets. For historians, collectors, and enthusiasts alike, the 2003 Kennedy half dollar serves as an artifact of early 21st century minting practices, American memory culture, and the enduring legacy of John F. Kennedy. In the years following 2003, Kennedy half dollars continue to be produced primarily for collectors, though their role in everyday commerce has become largely symbolic. However, in numismatic circles, each new year of issue, such as 2003, adds to a growing catalog of Kennedy half dollars that collectively document America's evolving relationship with its currency and with its 35th president.